And there's great group where you say.
Yeah, I get great.
And this is a lot. And we never really.
All right, this is correct.
Yeah, it's great. I like this. What's this?
And we. Because it's awesome. And we get that. It might be somebody very horrible. That is right. Yes. Let's get.
Just hang in there.
We're gonna be here. Yeah. Oh, they all. 2 days, right? Number 3 days.
Appreciate it.
He's saying you got to be on. Any part of it. Says you will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hey, Lanny, can you hear me? Arch, can you hear me?
Okay, well, maybe I'll just drop in and see.
Okay.
if someone can just look at that and see.
Marge, check your mic. Let's see how loud you are, if you don't mind.
Well, you want me to say something? You want me to sing you a song or what?
Do you know who kept?
I think that's good enough. We'll know when it's quieter in the room. Thank you, Marge.
Uh-huh.
All right, well, we should be good now. Yeah.
We'll have a 3:30 appointment.
30 appointment, we better get going.
It's 2:00, so we're gonna start the meeting. April, if we can have a roll call, please. Okay. Taking roll, Kathy. Here. Candy. Candy. Roll call. April here. Nellie. Here. No.
Here.
No, she called your name.
Here.
Thank you.
Art. Oh, we got that feedback.
Art is not with us yet, it looks like.
Steve, all muted. Is everything?
Do you want?
I'm the one? Oh, boy.
Buddy.
That's just embarrassing.
Steve? It's like telling everybody to turn their phones off and then yours is the only one open. Dave?
Here.
Barbara, Marge,
Here,
Bev,
She's up there.
She probably is mute.
She's muted.
Lanny,
Here.
and Scott. I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have enough people for a quorum. Are there any amendments to the agenda? And if not, could we have a motion to adopt the agenda? But if there's any amendments, somebody speak up. Doesn't look that way, so if I could have a motion to adopt the agenda? Thank you, Barbara. Second by April Hassan-Hilliard. So we'll take a vote on adopting the agenda. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And we have unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Next would be the president's report. That would be mine. I have very little to report. We did have a volunteer luncheon yesterday. Pardon? Yes, it was a very nice function. We had about 45 people there. Our volunteers have got to be the best, along with our staff. I think we have the best of anything anywhere. So just to make sure everybody is aware of that. And I would like to thank everybody in the audience for attending today. And hopefully we will look forward to a good year.
Turn right onto I-30.
I can't turn right. I'm in my seat. Okay, so from that, we will go on to Scott and have the CEO's report.
Thank you. I have a couple items on projects that I wanted to provide an update for. West Center, this is in your packet, by the way, West Center Lapidary Club expansion. We are at 60% design. Recall that we are looking for a design build contractor so that we can get a contractor on board sooner than later so that they can help with the actual design. So we're designing something within our budgetary limits and constraints. The architect recommended we follow this process. We concurred. So we put out a bid for contractors to participate in that. We're actually interviewing those contractors today. So we will see how that goes. We'll recommend a award of contract at your May meeting, and I'm sorry, that means we have to have a May meeting. But we're going to try to avoid the June or the July meeting, but we'll see how that goes. The construction at the West Center Artisan Shop is moving forward. We're about 10% in the project at this point. That shop will be closed till the end of May. Recall that the West Center Membership Service Expansion office is on hold because of budget limitations, which we'll talk about it a little bit later. Next topic is the Metal Shop Expansion Project. We're going to talk about that today and hopefully award a contract to move forward. Same with the Desert Hills Locker Room Expansion Project. And supporting the joists, which is under the kiln room in the ceramics club. The joists need some supporting because of the weight of the kilns. So we're going to talk about that. The contractor is putting together 60% design of the Desert Hills pool equipment has been completed. They're moving forward with 100% design completion. That should be fairly soon. We'll get cost estimates, and then we're going to go for permitting and for a bid to go out for bid on that. East Center Gas Manifold Project, we're going to talk about that today. And then Pickleball Court Expansion Project. Recall that this is a club-funded project. We have met several times with the architect and the pickleball subcommittee that's moving forward with this. We're hoping to meet this week, but we're running out of time with the architect. So hopefully we'll meet maybe Friday, if not early next week would be our goal. And that is my report on projects coming up. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, I think we talked about in the work session that the Desert Hills pool comes out of MRNRA versus B. I don't think it just got changed on this sheet.
I think you're right. On the sheet I'm looking at, it has been changed. So I think I have a newer one than you. I'll pass it down. You can even see it.
I don't.
But yes,
don't
it's
need to see it.
MRA.
Right.
It's supposed to be A because we're replacing and improving equipment. This isn't a new pool or a new spa. So that's the difference. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Questions from the audience? Okay, then we will move on to the presentation of the quarterly financial report, and David Webster is going to give us that report.
Thank you. Ronald, my PowerPoint is
Stuck
not showing.
to open it.
Oh, thank you, Colin. So today is the first quarterly summary executive level financial report for the board. Most of the items I'll be talking about today can be found on page 4. And we're going to really work hard to keep this at a high level. First, I'd like to look at the first quarter of the year for revenue. You can see, okay, you can see that we experienced $3,348,000 of revenue compared to a $3,497,000 budget. So we are 4.3% behind in a revenue, but that too can be misleading. A lot of the deficit in our revenues, I'm pointing to this number here on recreation. There's $356,897 of revenue, which is 25% behind revenue, but behind our budget for recreation. Now that is our programs and our instructional classes type of revenue. And the good news is while that revenue is down, so are the expenses. And we'll talk about those in just a minute. So that doesn't impact the bottom line as much as the capital revenue. The good news is through the first quarter, we experienced $705,000 worth of capital revenue from membership change fees and transfer fees. And that's 2.7% ahead of budget. Now I'm going to jump ahead on you and just try to stay up with me. The green section is the projection for the rest of the year. And I have to minimize this. Got it. While we're ahead, and we're thankful for being on slightly ahead of budget for the first quarter, we are projecting that by the end of the year, we'll actually be $81,584 under budget in our capital revenue. The reason for that is we see some headwinds with regards to interest rates, uncertainty in the market. I told someone if I hear the word uncertainty again, I might pop because that's the news right now, and just inflationary factors that make us believe that by the end of the year we will be $160,894 under budget on our total revenue. Are there any questions on the revenue side? We can come back to it. But here is a graphical display of what we're doing, how we're doing on our revenue. You can see that the member dues, which is almost 60% of our revenue, we're right at 100% in bringing that in, which we would expect. And then I'm going to slide over to capital revenue, which is 25.4% of our budget. We are slightly above budget for the year. So this is telling us, like I mentioned earlier, that the recreation revenue is considerably under budget for the first quarter. But like I said, there's the expenses offset that we won't have quite the expenses that we budgeted as well. And I will tell you that in our forecast that I just flew through, we are projecting that we're going to make up that deficit, that they're going to, the guys and gals that are putting those programs together and classes together still believe that they're going to meet their budget, and we're going to hope that happens. Yeah, we have a question.
What do you attribute the large variance in recreation? Is it just numbers are down, or?
Question. There was a couple of big programs that we did not do. I don't remember what they were, but there was a couple of big, concerts that we didn't do, but they're gonna, I think they're trying to bring those back to where we will see that revenue. There's, from what I've heard anecdotally, is there's good participation. It's just that a couple of the bigger ticket items did not happen in the first quarter. Good question. So that's on the revenue. We're looking good for now, but we're conservative for the rest of the year. Now let's look at the expenses real quickly. In the first quarter, we had $2,628,000 of actual expenses compared to $2,884,000 budget. So we are under our expenses by 7%. And a lot of that is up in this personnel line item. We had some vacancies in the first quarter, and you can see that we're 3.7% under in our personnel costs for the first quarter. Now I'm going to jump all the way out to the end of the year, and you can see that we are projecting that we'll be 2.8% under budget by the end of the year. So in our conservative view of things, we don't believe there's going to be the vacancies for the remainder of the year. Of course, there'll always be some turnover, but we're conservatively saying that we're going to be fully employed with the planned positions for the rest of the year. And that by the end of the year, we will, then you see some operations and corporate expenses that have negative projected variances. And we are already seeing inflationary pressures on our furnitures and fixtures. We've seen in our maintenance supplies, costs are going up, hardware and equipment. All those items are already coming in more expensive than we expected. So you'll see in the projection down here, this operations, and even up there in the facilities section, we're showing negative variances by the end of the year. And that's that inflationary effect that we were talking about. Okay, so I've gone through the revenue and the expenses, and there's the graphical representation of the expenses. And you can see where the personnel is just slightly under budget there, just below the 100% line. Communications, which is only 1.9% of our budget, is over budget for the first quarter. And I think that's a timing thing because we got a big invoice from VoteNow.com for our election. Anyway, so here's where we really need to focus in on the bottom section of this chart. We're going to say that by the end of the year, I'm going to repeat that we'll be $160,000 under budget, and that the expenses will be $31,747 under budget. I'm sorry. Yeah, under budget. I hope I said that the revenue is going to be under budget and expenses will be under budget. And then we will also say, you see this $23,448, because we're projecting our capital fees to be under budget, that's less that we have to fund into our initiatives account, the 20 to 25% rule. So, if I haven't put you to sleep yet, what I will tell you is that we are conservatively projecting a $105,000 deficit for the year. And but the good news is we're starting off the fourth quarter in a positive mode. Okay, I just want to tell you that the next 3 quarters we have a conservative approach to forecasting. So that's our forecast for the current year. Quarterly, we also look at our statement of financial position or the balance sheet. And what I like to do is compare the current March 31st balances to the 12 months ago, March 31st, 2024 balances. And I look over here some big increases or decreases that I can't explain. There's nothing in there that really is shocking to me. It is a little surprising that our accounts receivable have grown 29% in the past year. And I will tell you that we're looking into that. I don't think there's a problem or anything. In fact, most of these older receivables are in collections, and they're good receivables. We'll get most all of them. And we have plenty of allowance for doubtful accounts that if somebody were to not be collected. We've got that allowance, but that number just stands out to me, and we're looking into that, and we'll get back to you on that one. That's not a real material number, but it just stands out that accounts receivable have grown more than I expected. Okay, then finally, we do this snapshot of our investments and comparing our investments year to date to the benchmarks that are established by the investment committee in our CPM. And we had a good investment committee meeting just this morning where we met with our advisors. And you'll see here that I always look to the biggest account first, and that's the maintenance, repair, and replacement account that has $8,544,000. In the first quarter, we lost 0.4%, which compared to our benchmark of 1.1%, you can see that we're behind where we would like to be in accordance with the benchmarks. We've spoken with our investment advisor about it. The investment committee is monitoring this. This is the first time we've had a quarter where I saw some of these significant variances, and we're going to be watching that as well. But of course, the advisor reminded me that since inception, all of our investments have met or beaten the benchmarks that we established, and that's great. But the first quarter is is something we need to keep an eye on for the rest of the year. Okay, that's really all I've got. I'll be glad that I went kind of quick, but I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Melanie?
The Fiscal Affairs Committee met yesterday and reviewed the quarterly estimates. And just as a reminder, the next estimate that we'll see on the forecast will be in August, most likely. And so I think with the emphasis on continuing to monitor the home sales are coming in good in the first quarter and monitor some of the other expenses. But it will be, I think, a decision point in August with regard to looking at if we are in a shortfall, what other steps we can take to contain the expenses. Staff did an excellent job last year in trying to manage the turn down in the sales, but any other remedies we can consider at that time. So it's important to have this information in front of us as far as what the first 3 months is telling us. But as David points out, there's extreme amount of uncertainty. And so I think to monitor closely all of the variables and then to look at what the data shows us in August and then to take necessary steps at that time.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board members? Any questions from the audience on this item? Okay, thank you, David.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to the committee reports. Bev, I know you're in the car, but can you give us a report on the audit committee?
We have selected committee members, and at this time we have not had a meeting. It's too early in the season.
Okay, thank you. Board Affairs, Candy?
Thank you, Madam President. Like Ms. Lawless had just stated, the board committee chairs did meet earlier this month, and we selected the committee personnel. And this year, the Board Affairs Committee is going to be chaired by myself, Candy English, along with 6 other members, 2 other board directors, who are Bart Hilliard and Nellie Johnson, also Pat Reynolds, Ed Knopp, and former board director Beth Dingman. Our charge this year as a committee is to review any other bylaw changes to the 25-26 BAC, that's the Board Affairs Committee, for inclusion on the 2026 ballot. Items to review for changes or revisions this year to the CPM include the Code of Conduct for members, Service Animals Policy, and the Guest Pass Policy. Our first meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 13th at 1:30, with our standing meetings on the second Tuesday of each month at 1:30 p.m. in room 2, right over there off of the West Center Auditorium. You can join this committee or any committee at any time during the year. All you need to do is fill out an application on the website, and then hopefully you can be part of one of our committees.
Okay, thank you. Fiscal affairs, Nellie?
Yes, we met yesterday. We developed and confirmed our work plan for the remainder of the year. And we spent some time looking at how we do our home sale projections. That's important not only for as we look at this year, but really going into our next budget cycle. So that will be one thing we'll be focusing on in the next couple of months.
Thank you. Investments Committee, Lanny?
Thank you, Kathy. We had our first meeting this morning with our two investment advisors. David gave you a pretty good overview of the return in our investments for the first quarter. Definitely a common theme from both investment advisors, which was volatility and uncertainty. And to David's earlier point, certainly something we will be keeping our eye on. Our asset allocation continues to be within our ISP guidelines, and we continue to be satisfied with both advisors. And our next meeting is in July.
Thank you. Nominations and elections, April?
Thank you. Our committee has been selected. I will be the committee chair, and there will be 4 other folks on the committee. Candy English will be the other board director on the committee. Our first meeting will be May 8th, and I'm going to be meeting with Nancy next week for her to set me on the right path and make sure that I have all my ducks in a row. So I'm looking forward to having a successful election in the upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning and evaluation, Steve?
Thank you, Kathy. Our committee has been chosen. We have 4 members from the GVR membership. April and Dave will support the planning and evaluation this year from the board, and Natalie and Scott will be our liaisons from staff. So our first meeting will be in June, and we will be tasked with ranking the new initiatives that will come forward for GVR. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and that will include items that are not normally controversial. There hasn't been a request to amend the agenda for anything to be pulled off for discussion at a later point, but that includes minutes for March 19th, excuse me, March 26th, April 9th, and April 16th, as well as the financial statements for March. So if I might have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Barbara Blake, thank you. And a second?
I second.
Thank you, Nellie. Is there any discussion on any of these items? Then we will go ahead with the vote of the board members to approve this motion to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please raise your hand. Looks like we're unanimous on that. Thank you, everybody. So now we're going to move into the action items. And we are going to start with David Webster with the acceptance of the draft audit.
Hey, thank you. The draft audit begins on page 18, but the staff report is on page 17. And in a nutshell, we had a successful audit this year. We got an unqualified opinion, and we got no management letter. And what I'm asking, what staff is asking for today is that the board accept that audit. For a couple of reasons. One is it's in our CPM that the board accept the audit, and then also because the auditors won't give me one that doesn't have that draft written across the top. They'll give it to me once we've accepted it, and we can post that on our website.
Okay, just as a reminder, we did go over the audit when the CPAs were here at our annual meeting. So we had a discussion at that point. So unless we have some questions from board members with regards to that audit, I'd be pleased to take a motion to accept it. Candy? Thank you. Do I have a second? Barbara? Okay, if there's no further discussion among the board members, is there anybody in the audience that has a question? Then we'll take a vote. Everybody in favor of accepting the draft audit, please raise your hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to go into the second item. It's the award the contract for the metal arts improvements, and Scott's going to detail that for us.
Thank you, Madam President. The board talked about this just a week or so ago, but the board today is being asked to approve a budget adjustment, award a contract for the metal arts improvement project, and authorize staff to expend up to an additional 10% in change orders if necessary. You may recall from the discussion last week that only one bid was received for the metal arts improvement project. Now, our staff, our project management team does put out our request for proposals to a handful of contractors in the Tucson area, contractors that we've used previously for various projects. We're finding that contractors are quite busy. Sometimes they don't return phone calls. There's plenty of work out there. So in this case, we did make an attempt. We posted on our website, but in this case, we received one bid for the metal arts project. You may recall that that project or that bid came in at $235,000. The budgeted amount was $150,000. So we were definitely over bid on that. Recall that I had recommended that we delay the West Center customer service lobby improvement project until 2026. That amount is budgeted at $150,000. So that would free up money in order for the metal arts project to continue moving forward. Now, since the time that we received that bid of 235, our staff, our project management team, the club, and the contractor that we've been working with that submitted the one and only bid have done a good job, I think, of trying to decrease the cost through value engineering, through eliminating certain things. So they were able to remove certain things and bring that cost down to $270,278.
207.
I'm sorry, 207. Thank you. 207,278. So yeah, they did bring that down a good amount. Anticipating all-in costs, however, and we're trying to make sure that we include a 10% contingency as well as soft costs such as architectural fees, permitting, and that type of thing. We're anticipating an all-in cost of $243,000. And that 243 is broken down in your staff report on page 41. The contract, again, 207,000. A contingency of just over 20,000 that we're hoping that we don't have to touch, but if we do, it's there. We've got soft costs, which is primarily permits and architectural fees to date of about $15,000, which brings us to approximately $243,000 is what we're expecting. So, as I said, staff has recommended that we delay the West Center lobby expansion project so that we can free up dollars in order to move forward with this project. So once again, our final recommendation is to approve the budget adjustment. Again, we're going from 150 to 243. Award the contract for the project to Building Excellence in an amount of $278,000 and authorize staff to expend up to an additional 10% in change orders. Again, we're hoping we don't have to spend that 10%, but it would be there just in case. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer those for you.
When would
Please.
Dave?
the work start? When we finish.
Yeah, thank you. We're expecting that we would be able to simultaneously move forward with that project as well as the Desert Hills project. And I believe we were talking May or June for those. Does that sound right? Yeah,
Yeah.
May or June was what we anticipated.
So when would we know? I mean, if this thing could come in under budget by $20,000, right?
It could, sure, sure. Absolutely. If we don't use that contingency, we've already spent almost 15 and the contract is 207. I don't think we're going to come in under 207 for the contract. The contractor is Building Excellence. We worked with them extensively on the Del Sol Clubhouse. They're honest people. They're great. We have a good working relationship with them. If there are opportunities to cut costs, they will let us know. I'm confident of that. So in terms of timeline, we're expecting completion around July for that project. If they start in May, they're expecting to be completed in about July. Yes, ma'am.
Scott, can you tell us approximately how long Metal Arts has been waiting for this building?
You know, they became a club in, looking over at staff, I thought it was about 2018-ish. I think it was about 2018. And they started off with a more robust membership number, but because the members that were interested and excited about it realized pretty quickly that the space was pretty limited. There's no air conditioning in the summer. There's no heat in the winter. So there's a real timeline frame that they can get in there and actually do their work. So it plummeted their numbers down to about 40, which is what it is now. I'm anticipating very similar results, though, to what we have with the Glass Arts Club, which they started out pretty flat because they were limited, but we expected them to skyrocket in their membership numbers, and they've done exactly that since they've had their new space.
Steve?
Couple questions, Scott. What's the square footage gain that the Metal Arts is going to receive from this expansion? And also, the additional cost, do we have the breakdown between how much is labor and how much is materials? I'm just curious what, if we have an idea.
Bid, we can pull up the bid and take a look. The square footage, they're going from those two containers, thanks, in the back of the facility. I think those are about 50 square feet each, maybe 100. Well, it's got to be a little bit more, maybe 200 square feet, if that. And I think they're going up to just about 1,500. I'm coming off of the top of my head. This is the Shotgun building just across. You walk by it between here and the administrative offices. It's the north side of what the existing shuffleboard court is. There's a long, narrow building.
So it's where Glass.
So they would occupy that narrow building and they would continue using their existing containers.
So this is the old Glass Arts studio there.
Well, they only had the one room at the end for their kilns. I don't believe, unless they were using it for storage. Was it?
It's where the Glass Arts store was
Yeah.
a couple of years ago.
I don't recall, frankly, the number, the labor and
Versus
the
materials.
materials. I can bring it for you and get it to the board, though, if you
So it was
like.
both increased.
That's the total, sure.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
We have any other questions from the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, then, if you like, I'll entertain a motion and you can pick it up on page 41 as in board option number 1, 2, or 3. And then you don't have to make your own motion or try to dream up the words for it.
I know. We even provided a
See.
recommended one on page 42, if you'd like.
Oh, okay.
Makes it even easier.
There you go.
I'll make the motion.
Candy
Okay.
and Barbara will second. So Candy English is making the motion and Barbara Blake is making the second. If there's no other discussion,
Can we have Candy read the motion?
Shall read the recommended motion, which is on page 42.
Okay,
I move to approve a budget adjustment in the amount of $243,000, award a contract for the Metal Arts Improvements Project to Building Excellence in an amount of $278,000, and authorize staff to expend up to an additional 10% in change orders if necessary.
okay. So with that, we will go to a vote. All those in favor of approving the contract, please raise your hand. And we have a unanimous decision. Thank you all again very much. Item BC, or sorry, 8C, would be to approve the Desert Hills locker room concept and award contract for both locker room and ceramics kiln room improvements. And Scott's going to detail that for us as well.
You're right. Thank you again. And this is a similar theme. And I should have mentioned this, but David, our CFO, had mentioned again where we're anticipating our revenues are probably going to decline, particularly because of the housing market. We've seen a first quarter, which has been pretty much right on budget, but because of the uncertainty with tariffs and market volatility, we're taking a conservative approach to anticipating housing sales that will probably decline somewhat compared to budget. Our costs, on the other hand, have gone up a bit. We're seeing this in our operations budgets with the cost of materials and supplies. We're seeing it again with the cost of our capital projects. We just talked about that with Metal Arts, and the cost of the Desert Hills locker room remodel is no exception. We did put out an RFP for that as well, an invitation to bid. We contacted at least 5 or 6 contractors as well that we'd worked with and said, please consider submitting a proposal for this. We received 2 proposals in this case. The low bid, I want to actually, let's start off with the budgeted number. The budgeted amount, all in cost, was $394,000. The low bid was $687,000. So that's significant. That did include the 90,000. Yes,
Okay.
it did.
Thanks.
Yeah. So nevertheless, your staff and project management team got together and pulled out the floor plan that had been anticipated and said, okay, what can we do to salvage this project? We worked with the contractor as well on coming up with ideas on how we could value engineer these costs down significantly. And you'll see, and I'm going to pull this up so that those at home can see this. It's very small though, so this is in your packet. Oh, is this, what is this?
The floor plan.
Come on, that is not what we want. Let's try this again. All right, it's having me sign in. There we go. Oh, okay. It's not my day for technology, I tell you. I'll tell you what. Let me see if I can pull it up again. Nevertheless, those of you that have this in front of you, this is in your packet. So let's just go with the Plan B option because it's the safer one. But this is page 50. You can see the existing plan on the left. It says existing. This shows the sauna is in the middle of the facility. You can see a unisex or a companion restroom, which is somewhat jutting into the men's locker room. The women's locker room, there is an outdoor shower that is jutting into that space. And you will see at the north end of the building, it says existing exercise room. That's really what it was. It's not being used for that right now. Right now, it's really just an office for our fitness coordinator. Nevertheless, that's the space. There were 2 concerns here. Primarily, the big one was how can we shore up the joists from underneath the kilns in the ceramic facility upstairs? So we needed to figure out how to get into the ceiling of the locker room, because the locker room is right under the joists in the kiln room where the ceramics club is. And how can we improve the flow of this facility? Because it's such a small space, the hand washing, the sinks are basically in the flow of traffic from where the lockers are. So those that have to wash their hands have to pretty much walk right through where people are changing their clothes. It's a very small space and it's complicated. So we had a goal of trying to expand that space and try to isolate them a little bit more so there wasn't as much cross-flow traffic. We came up with an original expansion plan, which is a concept that was approved by the board some time ago. That's the middle one. You can see where the expansion moves into that fitness room to the north. It gives a lot more space in the changing room that's completely separate from the commodes, the toilets. You'll see, and for some reason, and Director Barker pointed this out, there are 7 commodes that were anticipated in the women's restroom. I think that's probably more than we needed. We're probably good with 3 or 4. My sense is that the architect was trying to find a way to fill some space here at the time. And so we ended up with probably more toilets that we needed. Probably better to have a little bit more than a little bit less. However, this is the project that came in significantly over budgeted, about 600 and X amount of dollars. The project on the right, it says the current remodel floor plan. You can see that we are not moving into the exercise room, which is to the north. We are leaving the plumbing essentially where it is in each of the locker rooms. The toilets, the showers, the sinks are all basically where they were. The primary difference is you'll note that the outdoor shower is now part of the women's locker room, and the companion restroom is now part of the men's locker room. That was the case in the previous planned project as well. So that shouldn't be a surprise. We were anticipating eliminating both of those facilities with either plan moving forward. The big thing with the current remodel project is, again, we've saved a lot of costs. Most of this, since we're using existing facilities, we're really keeping the same floor plan, essentially the same envelope of the locker room. The primary difference is we're taking out those two rooms that then expand the locker rooms of each. But you'll notice how we have redesigned the locker room changing areas so that they're larger and so that you don't necessarily have to traverse and provide cross traffic through the locker room changing area to get to the sinks in both cases. So we feel that we have achieved one of our primary objectives by doing that with this pared down model. And we've gone out for bid for it. The bid came in significantly less at $343,000. The primary difference here too, though, is this is now changed from more of an initiatives or a new project to more of a rehab project, which means it qualifies primarily for MRRA funding. Before there was some MRRA funding, $145,000. Now it's a bigger project, but it still qualifies more as an MRRA project. New toilets, new facilities, new countertops if necessary, new sinks, new partitions. I said new flooring, new tile, those types of things all qualify as MRRA. Initiatives would be the new framework, the demolition of the old facilities that are going to be removed and the building of new walls. Maybe some moving around of some HVAC and we have to cap off some plumbing for those facilities as well. But essentially $260,000, which is 75.7% would be MRRA, and 83,596 or 24.3% would be allocated to initiatives. Since we're not asking to increase the budget in this case, we're not asking for a budget adjustment. We can spend less without a budget adjustment, but we cannot spend more without a budget adjustment. So in this case, we're simply asking the board to consider awarding a contract for the Desert Hills Locker Room and Ceramic Club Kiln Room improvements, and this is specifically the joists, to Building Excellence in an amount of $343,822, and authorize staff to expend up to an additional 10% in change orders if necessary. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Dave?
Looking at the, this current plan though, it looks to me like you still have to walk through the locker room to get to the bathrooms.
You do to some degree, absolutely, but you don't have to walk through basically over to where the lockers are. You can still pretty much get around the lockers. Those, if you're looking at the men's restroom, then you can see the 3 sinks. That's probably going to be a bigger issue, but that's only going to affect those lockers closest to those sinks. There are many lockers that are north of those sinks and seating that won't be affected.
Okay, and also I just curious on the original expansion plan, where's the sauna?
It's in the middle.
Okay, because I don't see it designated like it is in the other 2 drawings.
It's right. It's the same location. You can see them.
I believe you. I'm
it's the same. There's a little square there with a door.
Okay.
And you can see the seating area in the middle.
I see it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Candy, for showing him.
All right.
But yeah, that would be the current sauna. You can see the existing is essentially the same. They were pretty much the same size. Still a good size.
I guess like I told you earlier before the meeting, I'd sure like to see us use that existing exercise room to the north, which is now an office somehow. I wish we could.
Yeah. Agreed. I think the cost was the biggest factor here for sure. How can we bring this down? Extending some of the plumbing over to that space was the biggest cost factor. Since this space is still available, I think you even received a comment from a member this week. This space could be used as something else in the future. If the board did want to go in that direction, you could actually make it a steam room at some point.
What I was just going to ask.
You could, sure. At that point, it would be an initiatives project and we would go through the same process, but it is there and it is available for a future time when funds and the interest become available.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
April?
I know that you've already gone back to the drawing board on this and I hate to backpedal, but as an avid sauna user, I sure hate to see that outdoor shower go away and for people to have to, part of the enjoyment of taking a sauna is taking a cold shower in between. And people are going to have to go back into the locker rooms to shower. And I went to the locker room there in Desert Hills today just to really see, just to make sure I really had a good feeling. And it's the locker room's not that bad. I mean, it's really, up to par with all of the others. And it seems like a lot of money to spend to just get new flooring and new fixtures and new paint with really, and gaining a few extra lockers in each of the restrooms. It just, that's my take on this project.
I do think the biggest gain is that there isn't that cross flow traffic into where the lockers are. We could certainly leave the shower. We did talk about it, at least at the staff level. There's been some interest in keeping the shower for sure, for the reasons that you mentioned. It's probably 12 paces to the closest shower in the men's or the women's locker room, but yes, you would have to go into the locker room in order to do that. And I think it's a balance. What's more important is having the existing expansion of the space to be able to have a proper locker room where you can change, or to have the convenience. And it really is a convenience factor of being able to walk out of the sauna and shower right there. But I'm with you. I love having a cold shower and a hot sauna and kind of doing that rotation, it feels great. And it's great for detoxing. So,
Dave?
I think it's good to get a female perspective because if the ladies' locker room doesn't really need to be expanded, and if they're happy with it, you know, why do the work? But I know the men's is terrible. But I'm with you. I use the sauna and I like having that outdoor shower. So I wish, I don't know how you go about it, but is there some way where we can amend the motion and maybe just do the, you know, just do the men's? But I mean, I know we're looking at building up that, the cross bracing for the kiln.
You know, we would still be able to build up the cross bracing regardless. If that shower stays, a contractor would still be able to get up there, whether it's through actually, it's more on the men's side. So I don't think the women's side would be affected as much. It's closer to where that companion restroom is and the showers are in the men's locker room. That's certainly an option. You could amend the motion and just say, we're going to maintain the shower in its existing facilities, remove that from the drawing. And similar to the exercise room at the north end of the space, it's always an option to remove that companion shower, that shower if you wanted to in the future. If it doesn't work the way you know, if the women aren't as happy, costs are probably going to go up. I'm almost sure of that. And they'll have to remobilize and redo that. So those are things to consider. If you think you're going to do it in the future, I would suggest doing it now. If you think the women are happy with the locker room the way it is, then great.
Nellie?
I thought when we looked at this issue before, that there was concerns by both the men and the women on the flow issue with regard to the locker room and opening up the space so that you didn't have to cross. And so I think it addresses more needs of the members than having the continuation of the companion shower on the outside. I would hate to lose the flow issue for the women's locker room.
Candy?
That was kind of the point that I was going to make. I was going to refer back to when we first surveyed the members and why in the first place did we want to go ahead and renovate and redo the Desert Hills locker room. And so go back to that because I know we did that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Right.
Steve?
I have a couple comments. I'm going to speak for my wife. When I compare her bag to my bag, when we go to the locker rooms, hers is like twice the size of mine. And I know she would appreciate the larger lockers. I assume these are going to be the tall lockers because I've used the men's lockers. And you can hardly get anything in them. They are so small.
These would be taller, wider, deeper.
So that would be a big improvement.
And more.
And as far as this space, how we're accommodating the change area, I know we've had issues in the past where members have been on top of each other and there has been conflict. I don't know if it was last year or the year before at this facility, but there are people that won't use it because it is so small. I think this is an improvement. It's not perfect, all right? And for the cost, it's a lot better than what we have now. And I do appreciate the majority of the funds coming out of MRNRA, which will save more dollars for our other initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board members? Dave?
Well, I guess I'm basing my comments on what April said. You know, I don't use the ladies' locker room, but April just said that it's really not a need, and I know she uses that locker room. Nellie, I don't know if you use that locker room, but you know, I'm just curious. Is it an issue? Have we talked to the ladies?
No, I'm just going by what we had in a prior board meeting. When we looked at the original drawings, it came up as a concern there as far as improved flow in the women's locker room as well.
I'm a lady, or at least female. My mother might argue over the ladylike part, but that locker room is just really subpar.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank
in my
you.
opinion, compared to the other locker rooms in the facilities especially.
Are there any other comments from the board members? Any comments from the audience? Nancy, do we have anybody online with a comment? Hang on.
I had one more moment. So we originally had two contractors bid on this project, right, Scott? And I'm just wondering, since it's now a rehab, would you expect if we sent it out for a rebid to get some more bids on it because it's not as complicated?
I wouldn't because it's not as attractive.
Oh, okay.
It's a simple, smaller project, and I think you'll find that it's less attractive for other contractors to bid on.
Got it.
Why, thank you. I'll say that again. I think it would become less attractive because it's a smaller project. Contractors are more interested in bigger projects because they can make more.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, there is a recommended motion on page 47, if anybody would like to move forward with that or to make a change. Candy?
I will go forward with it because I remember as a board member, the very first thing we voted on was this Desert Hills locker room. So it's been over a year. My motion is to award a contract for the Desert Hills locker room and the ceramic club kiln room improvements to Building Excellence in an amount of $343,822 and authorize staff to expend up to an additional 10% in change orders if necessary.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Barbara Blake is seconding the motion. If we don't have any other comments, we'll take a vote on that. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. And it looks like it's unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay. The next item, 8D, is to announce the committee members to the board. And I'm going to give Scott a reprieve. This one is mine. It sounds like he's losing his voice. And the committee members, you were given a listing of all of the committee members, which is on 53, page 53 of the meeting book. I don't think I need to read everybody's name. We had excellent applications for all of the committees. So I'm extremely pleased with everybody that the chairs chose. So there is no action item actually needed on this. So we're just going to list this as a providing you with a list of the people who are on the committees for 25-26. And with that, we will move on to item 8E to discuss approval of the annual meeting minutes. And Scott, we're going to let you do this one too.
Thank you. That wasn't much of a reprieve.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. So the board is asked to consider discussing direction for approval of the annual minutes from 2024. This is really a housekeeping item. Staff inadvertently omitted from the 2025 membership ballot the 24 annual meeting minutes for approval by the membership. We have gone to the attorney and asked what his opinion is. There are no requirements within the Nonprofit Act or any of our governing documents that require the membership to actually vote on the annual meeting minutes. In fact, you can see in the history that Nancy provided in the staff report that approval process has gone back and forth between the members as well as the board. So it's more of a tradition, I think, more of a recent tradition as opposed to a longer history tradition that the members approve the minutes to the annual meeting. So the recommendation from the attorney was either the board could approve those annual meeting minutes, or you could hold on to them until the ballot is developed for 2026, and then ask the members to approve those meeting minutes from 2024 and 2025. Staff thinks, since this isn't drafted in any of your governing documents, that the board certainly has the authority and therefore should just go forward and approve or not approve these minutes, but to basically clean that up, and then we can move that off of our list of things to do. Are there any questions? I blame myself, by the way.
Yes, you are. You're forgiven. Okay, so if we might have a motion. Nellie is going to, and there is a recommended motion on page 54.
I move approval for the acceptance of the annual meeting minutes for 2024.
And a second from me. Barbara Blake is the second. Excuse me. And so all those in favor of approving the annual minutes from 2024, please raise your hand. And it looks like we're unanimous again. Thank you very much, everybody. Next item on the agenda is 8F, which is to approve the proposed board calendar for 2025-26. We discussed this heavily during the work session on the 16th, I think it was. I'm sorry, at the special meeting on the 26th. And there were some recommendations. There was a recommendation that we go to meetings every other month, and adding meetings if we needed, or the second item was to hold the meetings every month as usual unless not needed, and then we could cancel meetings that we don't need. Last year, we did not meet in July or December. But as Scott was talking in this calendar, it looked like there was a possibility of canceling the May. And now he has something for us to do, I guess, during that time. So we'll be looking at the possibility of canceling June and July, or one of those 2 months. So I'm open to discussion, or a motion and a second, and then we'll discuss it.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm going to move approval of the meeting schedule with the deletion of the July meeting. So my motion would say that we would meet each month except for July and December.
July and December.
I believe that is what we have done in the past.
Nancy, were you able to get that? Oh, thank you. And do I have a second for Candy? Second by Candy English. Any other discussion on this item for the board calendar? Not seeing anybody raise their hand. I'll take a vote on that. So all those in favor of the proposed calendar, canceling the meeting in July and December, raise your hand, please. And it looks like we have unanimous again. Thank you, everybody.
No, it's not unanimous.
I didn't see him. Okay, so Mark did not vote, or you voted no? Which? Mark, you're on mute, I think.
Yeah, he's muted.
Yeah, I didn't vote yes, but you never asked for no votes.
I'm sorry, you're right, I didn't. So you voted no?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we will move on then to the last item on the agenda is the lapidary expansion budget adjustment, and Scott's going to take us through that.
I am. I want to say that we're going to do our best to limit meetings as much as possible. So there is still a possibility we might not have to meet in June or July. August could be up as a possibility, and so could September. So we're going to try to be diligent and be aware of your time, conscientious of your time. Okay, so the board is being asked to adjust the 2025 capital budget by moving the $43,000 that was earmarked from the gas manifold line item to the lapidary artisan shop expansion line item. We talked about this a little bit in our meeting, our work session on the on the 16th. The club isn't as interested in moving forward with the gas manifold. It doesn't seem to be a concern as it was, and they're more interested in making sure that there's enough funding available for the expansion project, which is across the courtyard. And so you can see in page 63 where that 43,000 is moved into the projection for 25. We still are expecting 400 roughly to be spent in 2025 under the West Center Club expansion project, and approximately 634,000 in 2026. That, of course, is going to vary depending on when invoices come in and how much has been spent. The point is the combined amount are $1,034,000. And that includes the 43,000 from the gas manifold. Are there any questions?
Scott, I have a question.
Hang on. Go ahead, Bev.
Could you remind me how many lapidary locations you were planning to move to West Center once we are done with this expansion?
One. So East Center is scheduled to stay where it is. Desert Hills would be merged with the West Center Lapidary Club.
That's what I thought, and I had somebody arguing very vehemently the other day that I was wrong.
Oh.
So, but that's what I thought. Okay, just wanted to verify that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions, Steve?
So I just wanted to confirm, I remember originally this was moved up because we thought it was a safety issue. And now we're saying there's not really a cause for any action in this.
Right. I think the primary concern was changing to they have to haul in portable tanks at this point. I don't think there's anything inherently unsafe about them. The fact that they have to change tanks could potentially pose a safety issue. I think you'd probably be more of a safety issue from hurting your back or slamming your finger on the floor or something like that than some type of explosion, which is what we all kind of think about when we think about gas. This just simply means they continue doing the process that they've been doing for quite some time.
So we've been doing this for a long time.
Been doing this for a while.
Okay.
Nellie?
I think this chart is an important one. It includes a number of adjustments we've talked about in our, as it relates to the Desert Hills Club locker room expansion. It also includes a couple of numbers as we talked about the forecast. And so just to, when we look at it, and looking at the adjustment for the funding for operations revenues, that line of 520,000 gets impacted because of home sales. And also our investment earnings gets impacted depending upon how our investment portfolio does. So it will be important for us to come back again in August as we understand more where the forecast is going and see the impact that it has on our initiatives funds and how we look at this fund in any way to helping us balance our overall operational budget.
Thank you. Yeah, are there any other comments from board members? Okay, then, are there any comments from the audience on this item? Okay, then we will take a vote. I'm sorry, I need a motion and a second.
May I make,
Sure.
I move to adjust the 2025 capital budget by moving $43,000 from the gas manifold line item to the lapidary artisan shop expansion line item.
Thank you. Does any, Candy? You're seconding it? Okay. The motion is by April Hilliard and the second is by Candy English. So if there is no other discussion, we'll take a vote. Everybody in favor of approving the motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Gosh, we're early today. For such a long agenda, are there any member comments? Any members that would like to make comments to the board? Okay, thank you. We do appreciate your coming, whether you speak or not. It doesn't matter. We do appreciate your coming just the same. So with that, I'll take a motion for the adjournment of the meeting.
So moved.
Barbara? And who had a second?
Bart.
Bart has a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, unanimous again. Thank you very much, everybody. And it is 3:11 at this point. Thank you. Bye, Bev. Bye, Lenny. Okay.